Good morning, my workplace warriors. Bring your coffee and sit with me because today we're talking about a pain that can be difficult to explain. You are not invited to a meeting, a colleague suddenly becomes quieter around you. People go to lunch without asking whether you want to join them. Your manager's tone changes. Nothing dramatic may have happened, but you feel it. And for the rest of the day, one question follows you. What have I done wrong? Welcome to episode 4 of Surviving the Workplace. In episode 3, we explored overgiving and why being useful can begin to feel necessary for safety and belonging. Today, we are asking, why does being excluded at work hurt so much? Why does workplace exclusion hurt? Being left out at work can feel like more than a missed invitation. It can feel like proof that you do not belong. Work is not only where you earn money, it is where you spend a large part of your life. You work with the same people, you share problems, deadlines, and daily routines. You may want to feel that you're part of something. So when you are left out, the pain can travel much deeper than the event itself. It may touch the fear of being unwanted, replaceable, different, not good enough. You may tell yourself, it was only a lunch, it was only a meeting, I shouldn't care this much. But belonging matters. It makes sense that exclusion hurts. The aim is not to shame yourself for caring, it is to understand why the moment has such power over you. Am I being excluded at work? If you're always the last to know, repeatedly left out, or treated differently, you may be noticing a real pattern. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Aisha. Aisha noticed that decisions affecting her work were being made in meetings she was not invited to attend. Her colleagues knew about changes before she did. They had informal conversation without her, then expected her to understand the outcome. At first, Aisha blamed herself. Maybe she was not senior enough. Maybe she had missed an email. Maybe she was being too sensitive. But when she began writing down what was happening, she saw a pattern. She was not one forgotten invitation. She was repeatedly being left outside this information she needed to do her job. Not every missed message is deliberate exclusion. People forget, plans change, but repeated exclusion deserves attention, especially when it affects your work, opportunities, or well being. Why do I notice every change? When belonging feels uncertain, a small change in someone's tone can feel like an alarm. You notice when a colleague stops using an emoji. You notice when your manager's reply is shorter than usual. You notice when two people become quiet as you enter the room. You notice where everyone sits, who receives praise, who gets interrupted, who is included. Being observant can be strength. It can make you caring, thoughtful, and good with people. But if you have experienced rejection or unpredictable relationships before, you may not only notice changes, you may feel responsible for explaining them. Your mind quickly asks, is this about me? What did I do? Are they angry? You're not simply reading the room. You may be searching the room for signs that your place is no longer safe. Why do I blame myself? When nobody tells you what is happening, self-blame can rush in and create an answer. Let me tell you about someone I call Tim. Tim's manager became unusually quiet during a meeting. For the rest of the day, Tim replayed everything he has said. By the evening, he was convinced that he had embarrassed himself. The next morning, he learned that the manager had received difficult personal news. The silence had nothing to do with Tim, but Tim had spent an entire evening punishing himself. When you are highly aware of other people, it can feel natural to take responsibility for every change. But someone's mood is not always a message about you. Before blaming yourself, ask, what do I actually know and what am I filling in? Why does criticism stay with me? One critical moment can become louder than every good thing you have done. Your manager says, this part needs more work. You hear, you're not good at your job. A colleague disagrees with your idea. You hear, they do not respect me. You make one mistake. You hear, everyone can now see that I do not belong here. The comment may be about one task, but inside you it becomes a judgment about your whole identity. You replay it after work. You imagine what others are saying. You prepare for consequences that may never come. This does not mean you're weak. The comment may be touching something deeper and older. The belief that one mistake can cost you approval. That disagreement leads to rejection. That you must perform well to remain safe. Feedback can help you grow, but feedback should not have the power to remove your entire sense of worth. Am I overthinking workplace exclusion? Sometimes your fear adds meaning, but sometimes your discomfort is correctly noticing that something is wrong. It is important not to dismiss yourself. You may be reacting to an older fear. You may also be responding to a real situation. Both are possible. Ask yourself, Is this one event or a repeated pattern? Is everyone being treated this way or mainly me? Is the missing information affecting my ability to work? Have I asked a calm, direct question? What happened when I raised the concern? Did I receive clarity or was I mocked, blamed or dismissed? You do not need to choose between am I imagining everything and everyone is against me. There is a calmer place between those extremes. You can check the facts without abandoning your feelings. Your feelings are information. They are not always the complete explanation, though. Why do I work harder after rejection? When you feel pushed out, you may try to earn your way back in by becoming even more useful. You volunteer for another task, you stay late, you offer to help the person who excluded you. You become extra friendly. You try to prove that you are a team player. Part of you hopes that if you do enough, people will recognize your value and bring you back into the group. But now exclusion is not only hurting you, it is making you overgive. The workplace receives more from you at the exact moment you feel the least secure. And every time you work harder to repair someone else's opinion, you teach yourself belonging must be earned. But belonging built entirely on performance will never feel safe. There will always be another task, another mood, and another person to please. Am I trying to earn belonging? If you must keep proving that you deserve a seat at the table, you may never feel able to sit comfortably in it. You may change how you speak, hide parts of your personality, laugh at things that do not feel funny, agree when you have a different opinion, avoid mentioning your needs. You become easier for everyone else to accept, but harder for yourself to recognize. This can happen to anyone. It can feel even heavier when you are already different from the majority because of your background, identity, disability, sexuality, communication style, or life experience. Trying to belong is human, but belonging should not require you to disappear. Ask yourself, am I being welcomed for who I am or rewarded for how little space I take? Is workplace exclusion toxic? Exclusion becomes especially harmful when it is repeated, targeted, or used to control your access to information and opportunity. Workplace exclusion can include being repeatedly left out of meetings you need to attend, having information withheld, being ignored when you speak, being excluded from opportunities given to comparable colleagues, being left out of communication that affects your role, being socially isolated after raising a concern, One awkward lunch does not automatically mean your workplace is toxic, but repeated patterns should not be dismissed. If exclusion is linked to discrimination, harassment, bullying, or retaliation, consider documenting dates, messages, emails, witnesses, and the effect on your work. I would recommend to seek suitable support outside your organization. It can be a union, an employee assistance service, or even appropriate legal guidance. You do not need to diagnose everyone involved. You need to understand what is happening and protect yourself clearly. What is my fear of workplace exclusion protecting? Your fear of being left out may be trying to protect you from an older feeling of being unwanted or unsafe. Maybe you learned early to notice every change in a room. Maybe belonging once depended on keeping people happy. Maybe being different led to criticism. Maybe silence meant that trouble was coming. That watchful part of you may have helped you avoid rejection or conflict. Now it may react before you have all the information. It tells you, fix this quickly, make them like you, do more, do not upset anyone. This part of you is not trying to ruin your career. It may be trying to keep you connected, but you can appreciate what it once did without allowing it to control every decision now. Ask, what does part of me believe exclusion means about me? That is often where the deeper pattern begins to show itself. How do I handle workplace exclusion? You do not need to beg for belonging. You need facts, boundaries, and support. Begin by slowing the story down. Write down what happened. Separate what you know from what you fear. Ask a clear question. I noticed I was not included in the meeting as the outcome affects my work. Can you help me understand why? I need to be included in future communication about this project. I've noticed this has happened several times now. Can we discuss it? Watch how they respond. Do they offer clarity? Do they correct the problem? Or do they make you feel unreasonable for noticing it? You can also stop chasing people who repeatedly use belonging as a reward. Put your energy into relationships where respect is mutual. And if you recognize that every change in tone makes you lose contact with yourself, deeper work can help. I cannot make a workplace include you, but I can help you explore why exclusion has such power, what your response is trying to protect, and how to keep listening to yourself when someone else's approval feels uncertain. Episode 4, Reflection on Workplace Exclusion. Today we are separating what happened from what you believe it means about you. Take a piece of paper and complete these sentences. The moment I feel excluded was what I know happened is what I fear it means is what I immediately blamed myself for is the pattern I'm noticing is the clarity or support I need is. Then ask yourself, if I knew my worth had not changed, how would I respond to this situation? Maybe you would ask a direct question, or maybe you would document the pattern. Maybe you would stop trying to earn someone's approval. Or maybe you would simply refuse to spend the whole evening punishing yourself. Choose one response that keeps you connected to yourself. What do I take from episode 4 about workplace exclusion? Being excluded can hurt without becoming proof that there is something wrong with you. You are allowed to notice changes. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to take a repeated pattern seriously. You can reflect on your own response without accepting responsibility for everyone else's behavior. You do not need to work harder every time you feel unwanted. You do not have to make yourself smaller to remain included. Before continuing with your day, let's do a bit of grounding. Place your feet on the floor. Take one slow breath in and out. Then gently remind yourself, I can notice exclusion without rejecting myself. Someone else's behavior does not define my worth. I do not have to earn belonging by disappearing. In the next episode, we will ask, is my workplace toxic or am I blaming myself? We will explore the difference between ordinary workplace conflict and patterns that repeatedly leave you confused, frightened, or doubting your own reality. Please subscribe so you do not miss anything important in the Surviving the Workplace mini-series. For today, remember, the first person you must stop excluding from your working life is yourself. I'm sending you so much love and light. Speak soon.